exactly the quality assurance means, why do we need the quality assurance resources or the people in the industry, and what do they do, what kind of expertise required from them. All these things we are going to discuss as part of this training, and we are going to learn about all these things as part of this training. So let's see what are the things we are going to talk about and how it is structured by the overall curriculum. The goal of this training is that the conclusion of this lesson, you will gain a basic understanding of quality and testing concepts and be able to plan, develop, execute, and document the test cases and the test plan. So the goal of overall objective, the overall goal of the training is to make sure you as a trainee gain an experience how to write the test plan and how to write the test cases. What exactly these things are, we are going to elaborate in detail in further sessions. Objective. What is the objective of this session? Objective can be divided into multiple pieces and how that goes. So explain what testing is and what it's not. So you will understand both sides of the story, that when we say testing, what exactly it means and what is not treated as part of the testing. It is important because when you are working for the company where you are part of the information technology, which is commonly known as IT, you need to understand how the software development cycle works, how the IT, the information technology team works internally, and what are the different stages involved in that. So the QA and the testing is a very crucial part of the software development life cycle. That's why it's very important what is testing and what is not testing. It has to be defined very clearly. What is testing mindset? How, when you are starting writing the test cases, how do you make, what is testing mindset? How do you elaborate on that? Define basic testing terms. What are the testing terms which are involved? How commonly used terms are? What kind of terminologies which are getting used? Apply the basic concepts of test planning. When we are doing any kind of a work, as you know, no matter whether it is a software development or any kind of a work, the planning plays a very big role. Same goes for the testing also. Because when you are trying to do some and perform some kind of a testing, it's very important for you to plan that work so that you know after step 1 what is step 2. So for any piece of work, the planning plays a very big role, and try to avoid future escaped issues. Escaped issues means which are unidentified issue, which anyone was unable to identify. That's what escaped issues are. Develop a test script. How to write the small scripts which can be used to perform that, to run the test cases. Describe the way to execute a test script. How you can execute the test scripts, what application you are going to use. Understand the importance of documenting the test results. Why it is important that whatever we are doing as a QA, whatever we are doing as a quality assurance analyst or as a tester, we need to document that. What is the final outcome of the test result? So we perform some task, that is my test case, and then I get some result back, that is my test result. So to document the test result, it's very important because that's the proof that what we did and what did we achieve after that. So documentation plays a very big role. What the class is not? What is class? The class is not going to teach specific testing methodology. Okay. The reason being is because every company have a different way of performing that. So there are no specific methodologies which you are going to follow as part of it, because you can read the books, and number of books are available in the market. But the purpose of this training is to make sure you get a job. So this is a full job-oriented program. The class will not mandate specific procedures or templates. So again, the templates are specific to the companies or specific to the person. So maybe what you like, I don't like. So the kind of a document, the kind of a template is what? Template is that formal way of writing and presenting any information as a QA. So there is no boundary, no limitation that what format you should use, what kind of a layout you should use. You could come up with your different layout, I could come up with my own layout. Okay, but both are trying to denote the exactly same information. That's what it is. So it's very important that we understand there is no rule book for a QA that the QA must have XYZ format to write the test cases or ABC format to write the test plan. There is no rule book for you. Whatever way you want to present the information, you can do that. Now this is the schedule of the class. So in day 1 we are going to talk about basic testing concepts, common testing terms, and the test levels. Okay, by doing that, what we are trying to say that the test levels, what are the different test levels we have and how we can achieve that. So these are the things we are going to talk through. And if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me so that I can elaborate those things. Now day 2 and day 3, when we move forward, we will see how that is going to go further. Let's move on and let's see. So basic testing concepts, what exactly it is, how it works. What is the software testing process? A means by which people, methods, and tools are used to verify that a software product meets the intended need. So what testing process is all about? Testing process is all about when, let's say, I expect something, okay, I expect that, okay, when I go to the DMV office, the DMV office should give me the printed license. That's my expectation. Now, what is the final testing outcome? The testing will be conducted to make sure that, okay, if the person visits to the driving license office, DMV office, whether the DMV is going to give the driving license, printed driving license or not. That is what the testing means. If the DMV is able to produce the driving license, the printed electronic driving license, that means the test is a positive and it's a pass. It's a successful test result. But if for some system issues they are unable to do that, that is a failed test result. So this is what the testing process is all about. That means you are trying to validate the method and the tools which are used to verify the software, whether the software meets the intended need or not. Whose need? The people who are going to use that application. So let's assume if I am working in McDonald's and whatever application McDonald's is using, okay, that particular application is working the way I am expecting, that means the testing process is successfully working. The software which McDonald's is using tested successfully. Whereas if I find some hiccups, some issues with the system, that means the McDonald's application is not fully functional. There are some hiccups, there are some issues, and that's why it's not working. This is what the testing process is all about. That means to make sure the software which we are trying to use, the software which end user is trying to use, is fully tested and functional. And who assures that? The quality assurance team, the quality assurance analyst is going to assure that the software which is being developed is working 100% and satisfy the intended need of the end user. Essentials of the testing process. What do you mean by essentials of the testing process? Quality of the test process determines the success of the test effort. So the better the quality is, that means the harder the parameters we have put around the testing. See, the harder we try, the better results we will get. So let's assume if we are trying to build something, the first time when we make something, it's not that good. Then we try next time. When we try next time, then there will be little betterment we will see in the product, in the final outcome. Third time it will be much better. Fourth time it will be more and more better. So what happens? It's a direct relation that the quality of the test process determines the success of the test effort. So the better, the more the effort is, the better the quality is. That's how it is. Prevent defect migration by doing early life cycle testing. If you are waiting till the last minute of the process, okay, you are going to get lot of issues in the late stage. Whereas if you start by doing the testing on the early stage when it is in the initial stage of the work, that means you have the opportunity to eliminate the unnecessary defects and the issues which you may get into during the late stage of the process. So defect is nothing but an issue. Let's assume, think about it. I'm going to give one example to explain it in a better way. So let's assume, let me just grab a pen. So let's assume this is a form. This is one form where the customer needs to fill out what order they want. And in this you have the name, and then you have the order, for example. This is the form where you have a name and the order. Now when you have this, this is the requirement. This is what I want as an end user. And you as a QA is going to test this. When you are doing this, what you are going to see, if this is fully developed, then you are going to do the testing. Then what happens? There are issues which you may encounter during the late stage. But if you start testing by when this is only developed, then what will happen? Just one field is developed, and if you started working on this parallelly, then you will be able to eliminate lot of issues which you may get into in the later stage. That's what it is. So prevent defect migration by doing early life cycle testing. For example, the name. You cannot have a name with alphanumeric. Name is always alpha, which is alphabet. So let's assume the issue is that user is able to enter 1, 2, 3, 4 as a name. That is a defect. That is an issue because nobody will have a name as 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what this whole defect means. So what you are doing is, by doing the early life cycle testing, you are eliminating the defect. Now, testing is a professional discipline requiring trained, skilled people. So the lot of emphasis on trained and skilled people. The reason why we need trained and the skilled resources, because the testing is a profession. It's a role. It's a job where the person who is going to test the product must understand the value of their role, must understand the importance of their day-to-day activity and the task which they are going to perform on the software. To do that, you must be aware of how to do the testing. Because if you are conceptually not clear how to do the testing, it will be very difficult for you to understand how and where to find the issues. So you will not be able to think out of the box, and that's not what QA does. QA must understand the intrinsic requirement, intrinsic details of the system to make sure they are able to write the successful test cases, and they are able to write and perform and execute the successful test cases and the early detection of the defects. Cultivate a positive team attitude to find and correct defects. The positive team attitude for any successful project is very important, whether it's a QA, whether it's a developer, or whether it's a business analyst or the stakeholders. The positive team attitude supports the success of the project, because let's assume a business analyst is not very supportive. Then what will happen? There is a communication gap. There is an issue where the person is not able to give that communication, not able to provide that right information to a QA. So just imagine there is a BA, not so good, not very supportive, and there is a QA who needs lot of information from a BA. So there is a direct relation between the BA and the QA. Now BA is not very supportive, so not providing lot of information. So this is not an example of positive team attitude, because that means QA need 1, 2, 3, 4 all this information, whereas QA have received only 1, 2, and 3. 4 is missing because the BA did not communicate that to a QA. So this will have a direct impact on the test cases, because you don't know that you need to test this number 4 also. QA will not even know that QA needs to test number 4. And that will have a negative impact on the software, because the software is not tested for the 4th requirement because BA did not communicate that clearly to a QA. So QA have no idea, and that is the sign of negative team attitude. Whereas if BA and QA are working together to make sure that all the test cases are written properly, all the test cases are defined properly and laid out properly, that means the QA will end up doing all these testings, and there will be a higher success rate for the software testing. So that means that final outcome will be much better as compared to your negative team attitudes. You will have a better outcome in the positive team. BA is a role. How you have a quality assurance? There is another person who will write the requirement, which is a business analyst. There is altogether separate training for that. So BA is also a very high demanding role in the market. QA, where the QA job starts somewhere around $30, $35 per hour. The BA job starts somewhere around $50, $52, $55 per hour. So BA have a higher paid rate as compared to a quality assurance. And BA is also something, so sometimes that all of the students who are taking the BA and BA classes, they also go for the QA classes because they know the market is good and they'll be able to grab a job very easily as part of the BA and the QA combined. So moreover, anytime people take these type of training programs, they go for a BA and QA together. It's a bundle product. Okay, so that's what the people who write the requirement as the BA. What is software testing? Let's understand that. Why it is essential for the quality assurance analyst to understand that what exactly the testing is all about, because on day-to-day basis, that's what he or she will be doing on their day-to-day job. So software testing is a thorough evaluation of the application intended to, number 1, find error so they can be fixed. So the number 1 is find error. Establish a level of confidence in the quality of the application. So there are 2 keywords over here, confidence and the quality. Find error so they can be fixed. So how can you find the error? You can only find the error, the QA can only find the error when he or she is aware of what they are looking for, what exactly is the requirement. If they are able to understand the requirement clearly, that means they will be able to find the errors if something is not in line with the requirement. Establish a level of confidence in the quality of the application. The level of confidence, why it is required? The level of confidence is required because unless a quality QA is not aware of what they are looking for, what they are trying to test, it's very difficult to find a quality, because you can only deliver something good when you understand how to deliver that good. You understand the complete detail of that application. Then only you will have a better quality. Verify that the application does what it is supposed to do. So again, it comes down to your application does. That means the application, whatever is the expectation from the application, that has to be very clear to the QA. Because if QA doesn't understand what the application need is, why this application is getting used, then they will not be able to say that, okay, why it is supposed to, what it is supposed to do. So it's very important that understanding of the application must be very clear to a QA so that they are able to understand that. Moving forward, for a tester, during the early stages of testing, a test that shows a problem is a success. So again, it's coming down to the early stage. There are a lot of slides where we are going to talk about the reason why early stage of testing is required to avoid the later problems. And we will also talk about that, okay, how it impacts the cost of the project, cost of the development, whatever changes we are trying to make into the system, how that gets impacted, how the budget get impacted if we are identifying the issues in the later stage, and how it impacts the cost and the budget if we are trying to identify the issues in the early stages. If you have, let's assume we are trying to create a house. Now your house can have 4 walls. Okay, I'm just going to give you a very simple example. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are the 4 walls of a house, and that's what we are trying to make. So for example, that application is trying to create 4 sides of the house. Now, if we have developed wall 1 and wall 2, and we realize that, okay, there is some problem over here, we'll be able to fix it. So this is not correct. We'll be able to fix it. Whereas, if we develop 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we identify there is some problem in this side as well as this side, this is also not good, this corner is not good. That means it is going to cost more if we need to rebuild, break these 4 walls and then rebuild it. On the other hand, if we identify this issue when we have just done with 2 sides of the wall, it will be less costly, because to build 2 walls are less expensive as compared to breaking 4 walls and then rebuilding the 4 walls. And that's why it says, for a tester, during the early stages of testing, a test that shows a problem is a success. So the early you identify the issue, the better it is, the less cost effective it is. So early detection is very important. Moving on. What testing is not about, what you do not worry about when you are doing the testing. The testing does not prove that an application works 100%. You always need to assure and make sure that none of the applications are 100% approved. The reason being is, it's a human error. Unless you are going to use that application aggressively, you do not know what kind of issues you may get into. And there is no way, there is no rule book, there is no thumb rule to assure that any application which are developed are going to be 100% proof, 100% defect proof. There is no way you can build a system which are 100% issue free. Nobody is able to make it ever, and I don't think anyone will be able to do that. You can reduce it, you can minimize it, but you cannot have a 100% defect system. That's a fact. You can't have that. So what testing is not, the testing is not going to assure that application works 100%. There will be some hinges, there will be some issues which may identified in the later stage of the usage, but that's acceptable by the industry. So they know none of the systems and the applications are 100% issue free. Why test? Software development is conducted by people who can make mistakes. Code will not be error free. So people who make mistakes, who can make mistake, what exactly it means? And the other word is error free. The people who are writing the piece of code, the people who are from the information technology background, the people who are the developers, the coders, somebody needs to write that, okay, if I am moving this, that means Microsoft have written some piece of code which is allowing me to move my hand, and this is moving the cursor. You are able to see that. That means that people who have written that line of code are the people who are called as developer, who belongs to the development team. So those are the people who are going to make mistakes. That's acceptable, and that's why you have a quality assurance team which comes after that, who is going to make sure, and their job is just to make sure whatever errors are made by the developer. This is the developer, the development team. Whatever issues and the defects are there because of the development, the code have issues, the errors are there. Who are going to find out? The QA team is going to find out. So why we need the testing? Because the people who are developing that, it's accepted that they may get and they may do some kind of a error while writing the piece of code. Just think about it. If I ask somebody to just write 1 to 500, just the numbers, people will do the mistakes because you are the ones who are writing it. So it's very obvious that you are going to make some mistakes. You might miss some number, you might skip some number, or you have to erase it and then redo it. So that is acceptable. How to overcome that type of a problem? That's why you have the quality assurance team, to make sure that all the errors are identified which are made by the development team during the system integration testing point, where the testing phase, it's all the issues are identified, all the errors are identified. Software has become more important and more complex. The risk posed by error is high. So when you are, think about it, when you are working on a simple application, that means your risk is low. On the other hand, if you are working on the application which is very complicated, so think about it. If I give you the application and say, okay, create a form where you have name, address, zip code, city, these are the only things. So it's just one form. That is a very simple application. On the other hand, if I ask you to go and create an airline booking system, it's a very complicated software because you need to work on the scheduling, cancellation, customer service interaction, booking, all these things you have to develop. That means the airline booking is more complex. On the other hand, just designing a form is a simple. So the more complex application, the higher the risk would be. So when you have a higher the risk, that means the errors, high errors are expected. So when you are working on, think about it, if you have to develop one-page application, that means you can have less defects, less errors. The error rate will be low. On the other hand, if you have to develop 15 pages, design 15 pages, that means the error will be high because you have more work, more issues. Less work, less issues. Less issues means less risk. High risk when you have more work. So that's how it's a direct proportionate of the kind of a application it is. If it is a simple, then the risk is low, the error rate will be low. On the other hand, if the vast application, complex application, then your risk will be higher and the error rate will be higher. Errors migrate. What exactly it means? The cost of detecting and fixing error increases the longer they go undetected. So again, it's just the wording which is twisted, but the meaning is not. What it is trying to say, think about here. What it says, that early stage of testing, a test that shows a problem is a success. Same thing, different way. What it says, the later we identify the cost, the higher cost it would be. So the cost of detecting and fixing error increases, okay, increases the longer they go undetected. So the longer the issues are undetected, the higher cost it is going to be to fix that issue, because you keep moving towards the success. So if you go very far from the starting point, that means coming back and fixing something will be very tedious, very costly for the project. So that's what it is. So the later stage issues are going to be more costly as compared to early detections are going to be less costly. As you see here, this graph is trying to showcase to fix the error versus life cycle stages. As you see, this is the life cycle of the project. So first thing you have is the requirement. Then you laid out the specification, which is your technical requirement document. Then you have your design document. Then you have a coding, which is done by the implementation team. And then you have a testing, which is the quality assurance team. So you come over here. And then it goes live, which is released. That means the project is done. If you are going to, and this is the cost. So as you see in the requirement phase, if you identify, this is less costly. If you find it in the TRD phase, still manageable. If you find it in the design phase, it goes little higher. If you find it in the coding phase, beyond that. If you go one level up, which is your testing phase, that means this goes higher. If you are unable to detect it over here and this goes live, you see that jump in the cost. So something which would have cost just $15 when if you would have identified that part of the testing, now it is going to cost $67 because you have identified after the testing, after if it was approved to go live, approved to be released. That's where you have, so you see that jump. So initial, you are going to, it's just a $3 if you identify that in the business requirement phase or the technical requirement phase. Little higher if you identify it during the design phase. Little higher than that if you find out the issue as part of the development phase, but it just jumps the moment it goes after the testing team. Very costly because of X number of reasons. That because to make the changes what you have identified over here, you need to fix everything. So you have to fix this, design, coding, testing. You have to redo it. Redoing everything just adds up to the cost. That's what it is. What is the purpose of testing? Why do we test? The purpose of testing is to find problems. The purpose of testing is to make sure that all the issues, all the defects are fixed. There are no hidden factors which are available. So, the purpose of finding problem is to get them fixed. Why do we look for the problems? To make sure what end user is looking for, what is the expectation, why we are developing this application. We are developing this application to make sure that what is the client requirement that gets satisfied, what somebody is looking for. Let's assume somebody is looking for the application for Yahoo email server. The way Yahoo works, they are trying to create an application and they want to say that, okay, this is the ABC company, ABC wants to launch their own website like Yahoo. So that's their expectation, that is their requirement. And if you and me working as a quality assurance, we need to make sure we test the application for the ABC company thoroughly to make sure it satisfies the need and it works exactly in the same way or in a better way how Yahoo.com is working today. How Yahoo email is working, the ABC company email has to work in the same way. So these are the requirements. This is why, this is the purpose of doing the testing, to make sure we find all the issues and have it fixed and then deliver the quality product. Establishing the right goal and the right mindset has an impact on the successful outcome of testing. What exactly it means? Let's understand that. So establishing the right goal and the right mindset has an impact. How come the goal and the mindset has an impact? Think about it. If the goal of the application is to create a mail server like Yahoo, that's the goal. The mindset is they are thinking about making something similar to Yahoo. If that's the case, that means they must write the test case and from that mindset to make sure all the test cases are in line with that. On the other hand, if they are not doing that, then they need to make sure that the application, when they are writing the test cases, that outcome of the test, which is the test result, is in line with Yahoo mail server. If they are able to do that, that means their mindset is completely understanding. They are understanding what they are looking for. And that's what it comes down to. And that's when they see that, okay, they have achieved the goal of that testing. The goal of the testing was to make sure that ABC application works exactly in the same way how Yahoo mail server is working. If they are able to achieve that, that means they have achieved the goal. Role goals, development versus testing. So role goals means each role has some set of responsibility, and same with a QA as well. So the developer have its own roles and responsibilities. The tester have its own roles and responsibility. How that works? Development strives to build an application the user needs. The fewer defects found, more successful development is. So this is more from the development perspective. So the team who is creating the application, who is building that application, is the development team. So that example which I gave about that 4-wall, okay, just take the same example. So you need to create a building where you have simple 4 walls. So the team who is constructing these walls are the development team. So that is the development team. On the other hand, the team which is making sure whether the walls parameters are right or not, whether that wall length is right or not, whether the proper spacing is done or not, proper gardening area is given or not. So all these things, the parameters which are getting tested, those are the testings, and that is done by the QA to make sure what is developed by the development team getting tested thoroughly. Now this is about the testing. Testing strives to determine whether the application really meets the user's need. The more defects found, the more successful testing is. So it always comes down to that if you are able to find the issue, that means you are on the right track. If you are unable to find the issue, that means either the development is done in such a way that there are less and less issues. That can be possible. That could be possible. But the other thing is that there could be that, okay, the tester, the QA is directionless. He's not thinking from the same mindset what he's supposed to be. So it's very important that how you are trying to assess the changes and how you are trying to write the test cases. The way you are trying to assess the changes have a direct impact on how you are trying to write the test cases. Because if you are not clear about what the software is all about, what exactly is the need for this application, you will not be able to write the successful test cases. So that's the understanding of the goal is very important. Testing and self-fulfilling goals. What exactly it is? So if the goal of the testing is to show the absence of errors, the tester will discover very few of them. So what it says, if there is a if, pay attention to it. Goal of the testing is to show the absence of errors. So is the goal to show absence of error? That means don't show any error? No, that's not the goal. If that's the goal, then tester will discover few of them. That means tester is not going to pay that much of attention, and he or she is going to develop a very few test cases. On the other hand, what happens? If it's just a reverse, if the goal of the testing is to show the presence of error, the tester will discover a large number of them. So it's just a reverse, it's just a vice versa. If the goal is to deliver Yes, that happens, but that's a very less likely to have that there are no defects. It's very less likely to have that. There is no way you can have a software which is 100% assured defect free. It's very less likely to have that. But if it is a very small application, you can get into the situation where there is no defect and the application gets tested completely. That happens too. So that is a possibility. You can think about it. Yes. Just let me quickly check any questions. Okay. Moving on. The testing mindset. What is the testing mindset? The testing mindset is nothing. No program is bug-free. What it means? As you ask the question that is there a possibility that the software is defect-free? Usually the answer is no. But yes, sometimes that can be that when we tested the application there was no defect identified, but when later on, maybe down the line after 6 months or the year, we realized that something which we didn't check at point of time when we did this application enhancement, something we completely forgot to test it. So those type of things can happen. That's why we always say no program is defect free or bug free. No program can ever be completely tested. So 100% of the testing, there is no way you can do that, because that's how it is. The tester job is to find as many problems as possible. Why it is required? This is required because that's a tester job, to make sure that the application, the software which are getting developed have minimal issues and have more success. So that's part of the QA roles and responsibilities, to make sure that the software which is developed is tested fully and worked successfully and in line with the requirement what anyone is looking for, what a business analyst or the stakeholder. Who is a stakeholder? The people who are going to use that application are the stakeholders. The people who are providing the requirement that, okay, the wall has to be there. Let's assume you are trying to buy a house. So when you are trying to buy a house, you know what is your expectation, what you are looking from that house. So you are the end user, you are the customer for that house. Exactly same thing happens in the software world also, where the people who are going to use the software are the stakeholders. They are called as stakeholders. Know what they are looking for in the newly developed app or the software. Moving on. The more problems the tester finds, the better they are doing their jobs. Why it is? It's not like that you are trying to just create the problems. No, that's not what it means over here. It means the better clarity you have about the application, the better understanding you have about the application, the better testing you will be able to do. How? Because you understand what you are looking for. You understand what end user is looking for. The moment you understand what you are looking for, that means you will be able to deliver better test cases. You will be able to identify the problems in the software, and that's why it says the more problems that the tester finds, the better they are doing their jobs. Errors are in the work product, not the developer. So it's very important to understand something. The problem which we are talking about, the errors which we are talking about, it's the work error. Work error in the sense, the problem is not with the person. The problem with the product, what that person have developed. So maybe the problem is there in the product because the specification, the requirement was not clear, or maybe something was missed when it was getting developed. So again, it's very important that the error is with the product, not with the person. For everyone, especially from the quality assurance team perspective, quality is the mission. So quality assurance is the mission to make sure better and the best quality of the product is given to the end user. That's what the testing mindset is all about. That's what you think. The characters of a good tester: skeptical, objective, thorough, systematic, should hunt errors, not people. So that this is something, all are the self-explanatory except this. Why it says should hunt errors, not people. So if you are trying to find some flaws in the process, flaws in the system, you should try to find flaws in the product. That's what it is saying. It's the product where you have a problem, not the developer where you have a problem. So the why it is a characteristics of the QA? Because it's not about people, okay? It's all about the person who have developed the application. What application he have developed? You have to find the issues in the developed product, not in the person. Is destructive, but creatively. Is destructive but creatively. What it means? It means, this is the continuation of this, is destructive but creatively, so will add values. So destructive in the sense that you see, unless you play around with the system in a good way and a bad way, you do not know that. Let's assume, I'll give you the example. So this is the form, and this form this is the text box where you are supposed to ask the email address. Think about it. You are supposed to ask the email address over here. Why it is talking about destructive, that QA has to be destructive but in a creatively way? How it is? This field has to accept only the email address. Let's assume I just put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is an email address? No. So I'm trying to be destructive by not entering the right value. So if I enter that value, that's a defect. That's an issue in the system, that this field is able to accept 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whereas the real-time requirement has to be that this field should accept only email, which must have some kind of @ and some domain, which is like, okay, maybe Gmail, Hotmail, something like that. So you can say gmail.com, for example. So this should only accept in this format. Then it's a pass result. But if this is not taking this, it is just taking the number, that's a failed result. So unless the QA becomes destructive, they are not able to find out what the issue is. So this destructive mindset is very important to add value. If you are trying to test something in a negative way, then only you will know whether that application or the field is working or not. So even over here, QA is trying to be destructive, but it's a creative way of destruction, because that adds up value and you are able to test whether this field validation is done properly or not. If somebody is trying to enter the wrong image in the wrong format, then it should throw an error to say that please enter the valid email address. That's how it is. So go to yahoo.com and try to enter something just 1, 2, 3, 4. It is not going to accept that, because, or just take any online form and try enter some random values in the email field. Don't put @ and the domain. Just see what error do you get. It won't allow you to proceed further, because that's the validation check added as part of the code. So that's what it says, is destructive but creatively, so will add values. That's what it comes down to. Common places to find errors. How do we know? In the requirements, yes. When you are reading through the requirements, it's very important to understand the requirement, whether the requirement makes sense or not. If it doesn't make sense, then there is a problem. In the functional specification, so the business analyst writes the business requirement document, then it gets converted to the functional specification where you need to write the table name, the field name, the format, and all those things. That's the next level of your deliverable, which is called as FRD or TRD, which is functional requirement document or technical requirement document, which we do as part of the business analyst training. We write the business requirement document as a deliverable. Now, in the design, yes, in the design phase, which is the further next level of your technical requirement document, you try to find that, okay, which piece of code going to have the error. In the code, directly in the code, when the developer is writing, you can find that issues. In the data, so data comes down to that, take the email address example, the field only accepts 1, 2, 3, 4, whereas it should accept @ and then the domain. If it is not taking that, that's a data issue. User manual, let's assume there is a user manual, there is a training document which is available to say how to use Yahoo. That is your help, Yahoo help, that's your user manual. If something is written as part of that user manual which is wrong, it is going to misguide the users who are trying to read that manual and work with the issue. User interface. User interface is nothing but what you see on Google. That's the GUI, graphical user interface, or you can say with the look and feel. Let's say they have given the white text box. The text box, the empty text box is white, and they have given the font color as white. So with the white text box, if you are going to write with the white font inside that text, it will not be visible. So that is the user interface issue, because you have used the same color for the text box and for the font. That's the problem. What percentage of defects are introduced in each area? That is a very good question. We need to understand that how it works, where exactly most of the issues are found. There is something called 80-20 rule. What is the 80-20 rule? In the industry, in the project management industry, we call it as that 80% of the problems are there, 80% of the defects are there because of 20% of the issues. Okay, so the low impacted area, whatever we think as a low impacted area, creates more problems in the later stage and are more costly in the project life cycle. So see how it's divided, how it works. As you see here, in the requirement phase and the functional specification phase, 56% of the time we are able to identify the issues, the defects in this BRD and the TRD phase. The design phase we get up to the 27% of the issues. Then in the code we get 7% of the issues. Then from data to user interface we get the rest of the 10% of the issues. Okay, so this is how the categorization is based on the data, the statistics available so far. Most of the issues are identified at the time of a requirement, whether it is a functional requirement or whether it is a technical requirement. That's where you identify them. On the other hand, the design is more from the detailed design, where you can find out additional issues. But then later on, from the code and from the later stages perspective, the errors goes lower and lower, because now you have already identified most of the issues in these two early stages. Common testing terms. What exactly the testing term is all about? Let's understand that. Common testing terms, an overall document. What is the testing plan? It's an overall document that improves communication about testing tasks and processes, Provide structure for organizing, scheduling, and managing the testing projects. Just think about it. I'm going to take the same example. We have to build the 4 wall. Now, the way the 2 lines are structured over here. Improve communication about testing tasks and processes. Provide structures for organizing, scheduling, and managing the testing project. For example, just think about it. If we do not have a communication plan, so there is a electrician, there is a plumber, then there is that carpet guy. They all need to work as part of this. So this is the constructor. This is the people who are doing the construction. These are the 1, 2, 3, 4 people who are doing the construction. If the construction person is not communicating it clearly with the electrician, the plumber, and from the carpet guy, these 3 areas will not even know that when this will be ready for their work to be started. So all those communication needs to be captured in the communication plan. On the other hand, organizing, scheduling. What is scheduling? Let's assume it says that, okay, once these 4 walls are, after 2 days, start its work. So 2 days after completion of these 4 walls, the plumber can start at the same time. So again, that there is a 2 day of lag. On the other hand, the carpet guy can only start when these all are done. So this is, let's assume this is a 4 day, 5th day, 6th day, 7th, 8th. So the carpet guy can only start from the 8th day. So this is what? This is scheduling. Now you schedule this entire work to make sure electrician get to do its own work, plumber get to do its own work, the carpet guy get to do its own work, and they all have a very hard schedule to follow. If they deviate from there, there will be delay, there will be losses which will be done because of the delay, because of the impact on the schedule. That's what the common testing terms are all about. Test cases documents the logical design of the test to be performed. What is the purpose of a test case? The purpose of the test case is to make sure that if I am looking for construct, this is my house, construct this house, the purpose of the documentation is to make sure they identify all the recent issues and have them logged. Maybe something will come up in a very detailed way where the project team is not sure how to handle that issue. And since if they were up to date ahead of the time, that means they'll be able to take some decisions to how to accommodate that delay, how to accommodate that timeline which they have lost. That's how the testing terms work. Test scripts list the detailed step-by-step procedure for a specific test case. So what is a test script? Test script is nothing but just imagine that we are trying to use yahoo.com. In yahoo.com you have mail, news, books, everything. You have different type of things, but still you guys are not able to follow that. So if I need to follow the step in the same example that, okay, step 1, I will create this wall, step 2, I will create the second wall, step 3, the third wall, step 4, the fourth wall, step 5, electrician will work, step 6, plumber will work, step 7, the carpet guy will work. This is how the test script is written, to make sure everything gets cooked automatically and it's working out exactly the way we expect. So this is the common things which you can expect as a quality assurance analyst. You will be asked to write the test plan, test cases, test scripts. That's the expectation from a QA. Common testing terms. What are the things we need to understand? There is something called black box testing and white box testing. What exactly it is? Black box testing. And as part of black box testing, only input and the outputs are examined. What exactly it means? It means it's a black box testing. That means, think about it. If you need to go from point A to point B, you are just going to test whether you are able to go from point A or point B or not. That's what you are going to validate as part of the testing. On the other hand, when it is a white box testing, that means you are going to do that and perform that. You will start from point A, you will go to point B, and then you will go to point A back because you were coming just to test it and it is really cold. Okay. Common testing terms. There is something called positive test and then equivalence testing. What is positive test? A test whose primary purpose is validation. Test designated to demonstrate the software is working correctly. If you recall the example which I gave where the form must accept the email address. If you are trying to test that functionality and the requirement was that okay, that field should accept only email address, that means that's the validation you did, that you exactly tested that requirement to say that okay, the requirement is that email address field should accept the email address only format. That is the requirement. What you tested is the requirement. So that's how it works. That's how you are going to understand, that's how you are going to explain that okay, what is the positive test, what is the negative test. The negative test is just a reverse. The primary purpose is falsification. Test designated to break the software. So think about it. The requirement was that that email address should be accepted, the email address field should accept only the email address format. So there is @ and then there is .net or .com, whatever that domain they are using it. That is a positive test case. On the other hand, you falsify that requirement. That means when you enter just the numeric numbers and press enter, that means you are questioning that field by saying that yes, this field is tested for positive as well as for the negative test cases. That's the difference between the positive and the negative test cases. Moving on to the equivalence testing. It is used to verify application with classes of input. For example, minors and seniors may be one class. All others are in the another class. So equivalence testing is nothing but you are grouping them into the similar set of functionality. Let's assume you have one group which is just teenagers, another group where you have people who are in early 30s and late 40s. This is one group. The third group is early 15 and late 60s. So these are the three type of groups you have. But when you are working on the Yahoo Mail Server application, you have to remember that equivalence testing. Why do you need that? Because you will see most of the people have cell phones these days. There is a class. There is a class of teenagers who are having a different set of phones. There is a class of people who are having the iPhones. There is a class of people who are having no phones. So the equivalence testing is very important to verify that okay, There is the benefit, but you need to take it out. That's what equivalence testing is all about. Let me quickly check the question. Okay. Let's go back to the test case. Is this the place you have question? Is this the place? Hold on, let me unmute you. Can you go on with your question, Govinda?
Yeah, there was a it was after like common places to find errors. It was like yeah, next to that, next one. Next to that.
Yeah. Test cases.
Yeah. Yeah, this one, test case.
Okay. Let's understand this again. Test cases. What is the test case? The test case is nothing. It's a formal way of writing it, documenting it, that okay, what you are trying to test. For example, the example which I gave here, you have 4 walls. So I am a customer. I want to build a house. That's my requirement. So I hired a contractor. When I hired a contractor, I told that very clearly that okay, I need 4 walls and small window and then the big door. I gave him the specification. Maybe I showed him some samples that okay, this is the size of the door I'm looking for, this is the size of the window, and this side I have a lake, so I need a window over here. There's a small lake, so there's a lot of geese and the ducks I see and part of the water, so I want the window to be on this side. So these are the requirements which I gave. What contractor is doing it? Contractor is trying to make sure that okay, all these parameters are made. What contractor is trying to make sure that from the quality perspective, whether the material which are used as part of the construction is good or not. What kind of a bricks are getting used? What kind of a material is getting used? What kind of an insulator is getting used? All those things are part of your test cases. For example, the Yahoo example which I gave. So let's say the Yahoo mail server I am trying to create. How I will write the test cases? That number 1 test case. When user type, whether user gets to the browser, whether it is the Mozilla, Internet Explorer or the Safari, and types abccompany.abcemail.com, it should pop up the window exactly same like what mail.yahoo.com does. It asks for the login and password. So the ABC mail server should ask for the username and the password. Once the user writes that username and the password, it should and clicks OK or submit. That's another test case 2. When the user clicks on submit by entering the username and password, the OK functionality should check whether this user is registered. That is the another test case. If it is getting tested, that means the user is the successful user. That means the user got validated, the username and the password got validated. On the other hand, if the application is not accepting the login and the password, there is some error. That means it should say the invalid login and the password. That is another test case. So this is what the test case is all about, where you are going to write the logical design of a test to be performed, how you want to perform the test cases, how you are going to write the test scenario. That's what the test case is all about. Good now? Okay, great. So let's move on. White box testing terms continue. Boundary testing, statement or the coverage or coverage testing. What is boundary testing? See, no one is going to talk about all these things, but since you are seeking career in the testing world, you must understand all things, because you never know what people come back and try to use those keywords, and I don't want anyone to just get lost when they are using these keywords. So white box testing is also considered as a boundary testing. Boundary testing is nothing but where you have some kind of a limit that, okay, for example, there is a form where you need to enter the date of birth. Now the date of birth should be in a particular format. Let's say if I say the DDMMYY, that means 2 digits for the date, 2 digits for the month, and 4 digits for the year. So 448, 8 digits are acceptable. Whereas if you, that is my expectation, that is my requirement. On the other hand, let's say if you create a field where there is no boundary, or just think about it. When you are trying to shop online, it says that for the credit card payment or anything, it says that the person who is purchasing the item must be 18 years or more. That is a boundary, that whoever is doing the shopping online must be 18 or older than that. So that is kind of a boundary. So the boundary testing used to test the edges of classes, useful for finding one-off error. Example from class test above, boundaries would be 17 years to 364 days, 17 years to 365 days, 18 years, 64 years, 365 days, like this. These are the boundaries where you are putting the limit to it, that okay, what is acceptable, under what parameters it is acceptable. Statement line coverage testing, used to verify that each line of code is executed. So how you are making sure each line of the code is getting executed? When you are trying to see through the functionality and there is a slippage in the functionality, that means there is a problem, there is some functionality which is skipped, which did not got executed properly. That's what the statement and the line coverage testing is all about. Again, I do not see any question as part of this, not part of this. These are just FYI for your information, nothing more than that. Again, this is also, nobody asks all these type of questions. Decision on the branch coverage test. A single set of data is used. A single set of data is used to validate both branches of a decision point. What exactly it means? It means that, it means that to validate both branches of a decision point, for example, if A and B or C is a decision point, we may choose A value for A that will test both branches. So it's nothing like this. Okay, what it says that, okay, if A and B or C, so you have A, which is common, you have A, and then you have B, and then you have a C. So this is kind of a decision tree. Okay, so this is how it is. So you could have A, which is common, and then you could have B or C is a decision point. We may choose A value for A that will test both branches. So think about it. You have to test everything. How you can test everything? If you are going to test A, you will test B as well as you will test C. But if you are just testing B, You can test A, but since there is no relation between B and C, you will not be able to test C if you just test B. Same goes for C. If you are testing C, you will be able to test A, but you will not be able to reach till B because there is no linkage between B and C because there is a OR clause. So it's very important that to understand the branching, how we can test out the branches. Condition. This is again part of the white box. White box is nothing where the things are very transparent in nature, where you are able to understand how to, everything is visible very clearly. On the other hand, if you are trying to just apply the test cases on a very high level, that is a black box testing. On the other hand, if it is detailed out, you know what exactly needs to be tested, you are very clear about, very confident about that, that's what comes under your white box testing. That's why white box have so many variations. Condition coverage test. A set of test data that is used to validate all conditions for a decision or a branch. In the above example, all variations of A, B, and C must be included to perform a condition coverage test. Strongest coverage criterion. What exactly it means? That it is a coverage test. What coverage test you are trying to do? You are trying to see that each branch have how bigger coverage. So think about it. You have a branch A, B, and C. Now A can have its own branches, B can have its own branches, and C can have its own branches. How do we make sure that all the coverage for all the branches tested properly? To do that, you need to understand the relation between all these branching, and also you need to understand which is the strongest branch. If you are able to identify the strongest branch, you will be able to perform that testing. That's what it is. So again, I would say no for this. So you don't have to overkill yourself. Now this is more from the exercise perspective. Now what do you need to understand? A branch consists of the following. So we have a A, and A can have B or C. So again, you're branching. The reason why I'm explaining so that you are able to understand that. So you have A, and then you have B, and you have C. So this is the branching, what A have. There is no relation between B and C directly. The only common relation is which is A. How many and what tests must be performed to do a complete condition coverage test? How are you going to do the complete coverage test? Just see. Think about it. To do the complete coverage test, you must test A properly and thoroughly. Because if you are able to test A thoroughly, you will be able to test B and C automatically. Let's see which one is the right one. So how it comes down to, always try to calculate it in this way, okay? 2 to the power n, and n is your 3. That means 2, 2, 2. 2 to the 4, 4 to the 8. That means total 8 test cases you need to write to do the full testing of this coverage. How? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 test cases you have created. That's what the answer is. So you need to make sure you can take n number of scenarios where you can say A, B, C, and D. The moment you say and D, again, you need to calculate on the basis of this. 2 to the power n, that means n is your number of branches which you have, and then multiply it, you will get how many test cases you need to write. That's the exercise. Any question over here? Any question? Okay. So that's it for today's class. And If you have any questions, please feel free to drop me an email, and we will clarify your doubts. And that's it for today's class.